The prison station floated in the darkness of space like a metal coffin. Terminus 7 was its name, and every criminal in the galaxy knew what it meant. It meant you would never see freedom again. It meant pain. It meant death, eventually, after they broke your mind and took everything you knew. Warden Krelix stood at the observation window of his office, watching the stars. His forearms were crossed behind his back in the traditional Velkari stance of satisfaction. He had run this prison for 20 years. In that time, thousands of prisoners had passed through these halls. Some were warriors. Some were spies. Some were terrorists who had killed millions. All of them broke eventually. All of them told him what he wanted to know. The Velkari were the most powerful empire in this part of the galaxy. They had conquered 40 star systems in 3,000 years. They did not lose wars. They did not make mistakes. And Krelix did not fail to break prisoners. The door behind him opened with a soft hiss. Shentok, his assistant, entered the room. Shentok was younger, less experienced, but eager to prove himself worthy of the Velkari way. "Warden, the new prisoner has arrived," Shentok said. His voice carried the clicking undertone that all Velkari voices had. "A human?" From the intercepted ship, Krelix turned. "Only one survivor?" "Yes, Warden. The others died when they destroyed their own vessel. This one was found in an escape pod near the debris field." "What ship?" "A human research vessel called the Dandelion. According to our records, it was studying exotic particles near the border. Nothing military." Krelix nodded slowly. "The humans were new to Galactic War. Only 3 years ago, they had made contact with the Velkari Empire. Only 2 years ago, they had foolishly refused to surrender their worlds. The war had been going well for the Velkari. Human ships were no match for Velkari battlecruisers. Human weapons could not pierce Velkari shields. It would be over soon, and humanity would join the other conquered species, serving the Empire for the next 1,000 years. "Bring the human to Interrogation Room 7, Krelix ordered. "I will see what information this one carries." Shentok bowed and left. Krelix walked to his desk and pulled up the file on humanity. He had interrogated 3 humans before. They were soft creatures, weak in body compared to most species. Their skin tore easily. Their bones broke with little pressure. But they had something unusual in their psychology. They bonded strongly with each other. Their skin tore easily. They formed emotional attachments that made them irrational. That could be useful in interrogation. An hour later, Krelix entered Interrogation Room 7. The room was designed to inspire fear. The walls were dark metal, stained with colors that might have been rust or might have been blood. Instruments hung from the ceiling, some sharp, some emitting a low hum of energy. In the center of the room stood the neural agony chair, a device that sent pain directly into the nervous system without damaging the body. It had broken members of 17 different species. The human sat in the chair already, locked in by metal restraints at the wrists and ankles. He was a male, average height for his species, with dark hair cut short in military fashion. His uniform identified him as a captain. The name patch read Taiyang. Krelix walked in a slow circle around the chair, studying the prisoner. The human watched him with calm eyes. No fear, no anger, just observation. "I am Warden Krelix," he said in the common galactic language. "You are now a prisoner of the Velkari Empire. What happens next depends on your cooperation." "I understand," Taeyang said. "Your ship was destroyed. Your crew is dead. You are alone. No one is coming to rescue you. This station has never been breached in 50 years. Do you understand this as well?" "No. No. 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 I do." Krelix leaned closer. "Then you understand that your only hope of seeing anything except this room for the rest of your life is to tell me what I want to know." What do you want to know? Taeyang asked. The location of the human military base in Sector 7. Fleet positions. Defense codes. Strategic plans. Taeyang was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I was a science officer, Warden. I studied particles and energy fields. I don't have access to military information. Krelix had expected this. They always denied knowledge at first. He walked to the control panel on the wall and activated the neural chair. The hum grew louder. We will see what you know, Krelix said, and pressed the activation button. The effect was immediate. Taeyang's body went rigid. His muscles contracted. His teeth clenched. The veins in his neck stood out. The neural chair was sending false pain signals through every nerve in his body. It felt like burning, freezing, crushing, and tearing, all at once. Most species could endure perhaps 30 seconds before they began screaming. A few exceptional individuals had lasted 2 minutes. Krelix counted to 60 and released the button. Taeyang slumped in the chair, breathing hard. Sweat covered his face. His hands trembled where they gripped the armrests. Krelix waited. This was the moment when most prisoners begged, or cursed, or wept. Instead, Taeyang lifted his head and looked at the warden, and smiled. It was not a grimace. Not teeth bared in defiance or pain. It was a genuine smile. The kind that reached the eyes. The kind that spoke of some private amusement. Krelix felt something he had not felt in many years. Uncertainty. You find this entertaining? He asked. No, Taeyang said, still smiling. Just interesting. I can make it much worse. I believe you. Krelix activated the chair again. This time for 90 seconds. When he released it, Taeyang's body was shaking uncontrollably. Blood dripped from where he had bitten his lip, but when he looked up again, that smile returned. Why do you smile? Krelix demanded. Is that your question for today? Taeyang asked, his voice rough but steady. My question is, where is the human base? And my answer is, I don't know, Taeyang said. I'm just a science officer, Warden. I study how fast particles move. I don't know anything about military bases. Krelix felt anger rising. He prided himself on control, but something about this human disturbed him. In 60 years, across hundreds of interrogations, no one had smiled in the neural chair. Some had pretended strength, some had tried to hide fear, but no one had smiled with genuine warmth, as if they were greeting an old friend instead of experiencing the worst pain their nervous system could register. You will be returned to your cell, Krelix said. Tomorrow we continue, and every day after, until you tell me what I want to know, or until your mind breaks completely. I understand, Taeyang said. Guards came and released him from the chair. Taeyang stood on shaking legs but walked without support. As he passed Krelix, he nodded politely, like they had just finished a pleasant conversation. After the human was gone, Krelix stood alone in the interrogation room. He looked at the neural chair, then at the door where Taeyang had left. Something was wrong. Something he could not identify. In all his years, he had developed instincts about prisoners. He knew when they were hiding information. He knew when they were close to breaking. He knew when they were planning something, but he did not know why this human smiled. That night, Krelix pulled up every file the Velkari had on humanity. He read about their history, their psychology, their wars. He found nothing that explained the smile. Humans felt pain like most species. They feared death. They could be broken. But somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice whispered a warning. This human knew something. Something important. Something that made enduring torture worthwhile. Krelix decided he would find out what it was. In his cell 3 levels below, Taeyang lay on the hard metal bench that served as a bed. His body still ached from the neural chair, but he reached up with his thumbnail and scratched a small mark into the wall near his head. 1 day. Down. Then he closed his eyes and smiled again in the darkness. 7 days passed. 7 sessions in the neural chair. 7 times watching the human endure pain that should have destroyed his sanity, and 7 times watching him smile afterward. Krelix stood in the observation room, watching through the one-way glass as guards prepared Taeyang for another session. The human had lost weight. Dark circles shadowed his eyes from lack of sleep. Bruises covered his arms where the restraints had held him during convulsions. But when he sat in the chair, he did so calmly, as if he were simply taking a seat for a meal. Shentok stood beside the warden, his concern visible even through his alien features. "Warden, perhaps we should try a different approach. Chemical interrogation. Memory extraction. The neural chair is not working." "The neural chair always works," Krelix said. But even he heard the doubt in his voice. "Not on this human." Krelix wanted to argue, but he could not. In 7 days, Taeyang had told him nothing useful. The human claimed to know nothing about military operations, and every answer he gave checked against what little information the Valkyrie had already gathered. Either he truly knew nothing, or he was the best-trained operative Krelix had ever encountered. But that did not explain the smile. "Increase the duration to 5 minutes, Krelix ordered. "If he survives, we will know he has been conditioned against neural pain. Then we try other methods." 4-3. Quote. 4-3. He walked into the interrogation room. Taeyang watched him approach. The human's face showed exhaustion, but his eyes remained clear and focused. "Good morning, Warden," Taeyang said. His voice was rough from screaming during previous sessions, but he spoke politely. "There is nothing good about your morning," Krelix replied. "Today will be worse than the previous days. I suspected it would be. You can end this. Tell me what I want to know." "I have told you everything I know," Taeyang said. "I studied quantum particles. I measured energy fields. I published papers on faster-than-light communication theory. That is what I know, Warden. I cannot tell you about military bases because I was never told about them." Krelix studied the human's face for any sign of deception. He had interrogated thousands of beings. He knew how to read lies. But Taeyang either told the truth or was impossibly skilled at deception. 5 minutes, Krelix said, and activated the chair. He watched the timer count down. Watched the human's body lock rigid. Watched muscles tear themselves against bone. Watched blood vessels burst in the whites of Taeyang's eyes. At 3 minutes, most beings lost consciousness. At 4 minutes, brain damage began. At 5 minutes, Krelix released the control. Taeyang collapsed forward as far as the restraints allowed. Blood ran from his nose. His breathing came in shallow gasps. For a long moment, Krelix thought perhaps the human had finally broken or died. Then Taeyang slowly lifted his head. His eyes found Krelix, and despite the blood, despite the trembling, despite everything, he smiled. 8, Taeyang whispered. "What?" Krelix demanded. 8 days, Taeyang said more clearly. "That is how long I have been here." Krelix felt a chill run down his spine. The human was counting. But counting toward what? Counting until he broke? Counting until death? Or counting until something else? "Return him to his cell," Krelix ordered the guards. "Medical treatment. Minimum necessary to keep him alive." After Taeyang was taken away, Krelix returned to his office. He could not shake the feeling that he was missing something important. Something obvious. The answer was there, in the human's behavior, in that smile, in the counting. But he could not see it. He needed help. There was one other human on Terminus 7, a doctor named Nari, who had defected from humanity in the first year of the war. She had provided valuable information about human psychology and physiology. She worked in the medical wing now, treating prisoners when the warden needed them kept alive. Krelix contacted her. "Dr. Nari, report to Observation Room 7 immediately." 20 minutes later, the human woman entered the observation room. She was small, even for her species, with gray starting to show in her black hair. She had the tired look of someone who had seen too much suffering and stopped caring about most of it. "You wanted to see me, Warden?" she asked in the common language, though her accent was thick. "I want you to observe an interrogation," Krelix said. "Tomorrow. Another human. I need your professional opinion on his mental state. What is unusual about this prisoner?" "Everything," Krelix said. "He smiles during torture." Nari's expression changed. Fear flickered across her face, quickly hidden. What kind of smile? Not defiance. Not insanity. Genuine warmth, as if he finds something amusing. "Show me his file," Nari said. Krelix brought up Taeyong's information on the display. Nari read through it carefully, her frown deepening. "A science officer," she muttered. "Quantum research." The Dandelion was a research vessel. She looked up at Krelix. "What happened to his ship?" "It was destroyed. The crew scuttled it rather than let us capture it." "And he was the only survivor?" "Yes." Nari was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I need to see him. In person. During interrogation." The next day, Nari stood beside Krelix in the observation room. Through the glass, they watched guards bring Taeyong to the chair. The human walked slowly, clearly in pain from the previous day's session. But he did not resist. Did not beg. He sat in the chair and waited. Krelix activated the neural chair for 2 minutes. It was not as long as the previous day, but it was enough. More than enough for most species. When it ended, Taeyong slumped forward. His breath came in gasps. Sweat and blood mixed on his face. And then, slowly, he straightened. His eyes opened, and he smiled. Beside Krelix, Nari made a small sound, almost like a sob. "What is it?" Krelix demanded. "What do you see?" "He is counting," Nari whispered. "Look at his lips." Krelix looked. Taeyong's lips were moving slightly, forming a word. Over and over. A number. 9. "What does it mean?" Krelix asked. "In human military culture," Nari said slowly, "prisoners of war sometimes count the days of captivity. It helps them maintain sanity. It gives them a sense of control when everything else is taken from them. So he counts days. Many prisoners do this." "Yes," Nari agreed. "But prisoners who count days usually count toward nothing. They just count to mark time passing. This human is different." "How?" Nari turned to face him. Her face was pale. "Because he is not just counting, Warden. He is counting down." The words hung in the air between them. "Counting down to what?" Krelix demanded. "I do not know," Nari said. "But I know this. During Earth's wars, before we reached the stars, there were prisoners who counted down to rescue attempts, or to planned escape dates, or to coordinated uprisings." She looked back at Taeyong through the glass. "If he is counting down to something, you have less time than you think." Krelix felt anger rising. "This station has never been breached. It is surrounded by 47 capital ships and 300 support craft. There is no rescue coming. There is no escape possible." "Then why does he smile?" Nari asked quietly. "Why does he count?" Krelix had no answer. That night, he ordered full surveillance on Taeyong's cell. Cameras from every angle. Guards posted outside at all times. Motion sensors, heat sensors, everything. For 3 more days, they watched. Taeyong did nothing suspicious. He ate the food provided. He drank water. He exercised in his cell, doing movements with his body weight that humans called push-ups and sit-ups. He slept for exactly 6 hours each night, and every morning, when he woke, he used his thumbnail to scratch another small mark into the wall beside his sleeping bench. Krelix counted the marks through the camera feed. 12 marks. 12 days. 12 days. The human was counting up. But Nari had said he was counting down, which meant there was a target number, a specific day when something would happen. But what? And when? Krelix pulled up every piece of information they had intercepted about human military operations. He searched for any pattern, any timeline that matched the 12 days Taeyang had been imprisoned. He found nothing. In his cell, unaware he was being watched so closely, Taeyang finished his morning exercises. He scratched the 12th mark into the wall. Then he sat on his bench and closed his eyes. In his mind, he pictured the faces of his crew. The 23 men and women who had died when they scuttled the Dandelion. They had known what they were doing. They had volunteered. Every one of them. Hold on, he whispered to their memory. Just hold on a little longer. They are coming. I know they are coming. And in the darkness of his cell, he smiled. On the 21st day, something changed. Krelix was reviewing security reports in his office when the message came through. Taeyang had requested to speak with him. Not demanded, not begged, simply requested. Through the proper channels, as if he were making an appointment instead of suffering as a prisoner. This was unusual. In Krelix's experience, prisoners did everything possible to avoid interrogation. They begged for it to stop. They screamed curses when guards came for them. Some went silent and had to be dragged. But none requested it voluntarily. Bring him to interrogation room 7, Krelix ordered. No restraints yet. I want to see what he does. 10 minutes later, Taeyang entered the room, escorted by 2 guards. The human had lost more weight. His uniform hung loose on his frame. The marks of torture showed on every visible part of his body. Bruises, scars from where the restraints had cut into his wrists. The tremor in his hands that came from nerve damage. But he walked upright, his eyes were clear. And when he saw Krelix, he nodded respectfully. Thank you for seeing me, Warden, Taeyang said. You requested this meeting, Krelix replied. I would like to propose a trade. Krelix felt a flicker of interest. After 3 weeks of silence, the human wanted to negotiate. Perhaps the torture was finally working. What kind of trade? Information for information, Taeyang said. You ask me one question, and I answer it truthfully. Then I ask you one question, and you answer it truthfully. I am not the prisoner here, Krelix said. I do not need to trade for information. I can simply take it. You have been trying to take it for 3 weeks, Taeyang pointed out. How is that working for you? Despite himself, Krelix felt something like respect for the human's boldness. You have nothing. I cannot extract through other means. I have context, Taeyang said. I have understanding. You have been torturing me for 21 days, and you still do not understand why I smile. I can see it in your face, Warden. It bothers you. It keeps you awake at night. You are not trying to break me anymore. You are trying to understand me. The human was right, and they both knew it. Krelix had interrogated countless prisoners, but none had gotten into his mind like this one. The smile haunted him. The counting, the calm acceptance of pain. None of it made sense. One question. Krelix agreed. You, first. Taeyang nodded. Why do you serve the Velkari Empire? The question surprised Krelix. He had expected something about the station's defenses or the war effort. Instead, the human asked something personal. Because the Empire is order, Krelix answered. It is strength. It is the natural result of superior species guiding lesser ones. I serve it because it is right. Do you believe that? Taeyang asked. Truly? That is a second question, Krelix said. Now I ask mine. Why do you smile during torture? Taeyang was quiet for a moment. Then he said, because every session I survive is proof. Proof of what? That is a second question, Taeyang said with a slight smile. But I will answer it anyway, as a gesture of good faith. Every session I survive is proof that you do not understand what humans really are, and that ignorance is going to cost you everything. Krelix felt anger rise. Bold words for a prisoner who will never leave this station. Perhaps, Taeyang agreed. Now, my second question. How many ships does Terminus 7's defense fleet have? The question seemed harmless. The information was not secret. Any intelligence agency worth its name would know the station's defenses. 47 capital ships, Krelix answered. 300 support craft. Terminus 7 is one of the most heavily defended locations in Valkyrie space. Why does it matter? You will never escape. I am not trying to escape, Taeyang said. And then, quietly, he added, 36 days. What? You asked why I smile. You want to understand. So, I will tell you. It is because I have been here 21 days. In 36 more days, you will understand everything. The certainty in the human's voice sent a chill through Krelix. What happens in 36 days? That would be another question, Taeyang said. And I think our trade is done for today. Krelix gestured to the guards. Take him back to his cell. As soon as Taeyang was gone, Krelix contacted Dr. Nari. She arrived within minutes, and he explained the conversation. 57 days total, Nari said, calculating quickly. 21 plus 36. What is significant about that number? 21. 20. I do not know, Krelix admitted, but he was certain, absolutely certain, as if he knows exactly what will happen and when. Nari's face went pale. Warden, when was the dandelion intercepted? Krelix pulled up the records. 22 days ago. 1 day before Taeyang arrived here. And it was a research vessel? Yes. Why does that matter? Nari's hands were shaking now. She pulled up the dandelion's manifest on the computer terminal. Her eyes scanned the list of equipment and research projects. Suddenly she stopped, her finger pointing at one line. There, she whispered. Quantum entanglement communication research. Experimental faster-than-light data transmission. So, Krelix demanded, that is theoretical science. It does not work. What if it does? Nari asked. What if they made it work? What if the dandelion was not just a research vessel? What if it was a test platform? Krelix felt ice in his veins. You think they are communicating with someone? I think, Nari said slowly, that Captain Taeyang was not trying to escape when his ship was intercepted. I think he was trying to get captured. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Run a deep scan, Krelix ordered. Every system in this station. If there is a communication device, I want it found. The scan took 6 hours. They searched the interrogation rooms first, then Taeyang's cell, then expanded to the entire station's systems. The technical crew worked through the night, running every detection protocol they had. Finally, just before dawn, they found it. A quantum entanglement beacon, no larger than a grain of sand, embedded in Taeyang's left molar, disguised as a dental filling. It had been transmitting since the moment he arrived at Terminus 7. The technician who found it brought the scan results to Krelix's office. The warden stared at the image, feeling something he rarely felt. Fear. What has it been sending? He demanded. Not data, the technician said. Just a signal. A heartbeat. And every time the prisoner undergoes stress, the signal changes. Higher heart rate. Elevated pain responses. Stress hormones. Someone is monitoring his torture, Nari whispered. Who? Krelix demanded. Where is the signal going? We cannot trace it, the technician admitted. Quantum entanglement does not work like normal communication. There is no transmission to intercept. The paired particle could be anywhere in the galaxy. Krelix stood abruptly. I want that beacon removed. Now, Warden. The technician said nervously. If we remove it, whoever is monitoring will know we found it, and they will know the signal stopped. Close. Then leave it, Nari said. If they are coming for him, removing the beacon will not stop them. It will only tell them, we know. Krelix slammed his fist on the desk. What is the plan? What are they planning? I do not know, Nari admitted. But think about what Terminus 7 represents. You said it yourself. 47 capital ships, 300 support craft. This is one of the largest concentrations of Velkari military power in this sector, which makes it safe. Or, Nari said quietly, if someone wanted to hurt the Velkari Empire badly, what better target than a station full of your best wardens, your most experienced officers, your largest prison population? Krelix understood then, the full horror of it. He turned himself into bait. He turned Terminus 7 into a trap, Nari corrected. And we walked right into it. Krelix strode toward the door. Minutes later, he burst into Taeyang's cell. The human was awake, sitting on his bench. He looked up calmly as Krelix entered. We found the beacon, Krelix said. We know what you did. Do you? Taeyang asked. You let yourself be captured. You are transmitting your location. You are counting down to an attack. Yes, Taeyang said simply. Then you have failed, Krelix said. Because now, I know. I can double the fleet. Triple it. I can evacuate the station. I can move you to another location. You can try, Taeyang agreed. Why not? Because you are Velkari, Taeyang said. You do not retreat. You do not show weakness. And you cannot believe that humans could possibly threaten this station. Your pride will not let you believe it until it is too late. Krelix wanted to argue. But looking into the human's calm and certain eyes, he knew it was true. 36 days, Taeyang said again. That is all you have, Warden. I suggest you use them wisely. Krelix did not sleep for 3 days. He stood in the command center, watching the sensor displays. The fleet maintained its defensive formation around Terminus 7. Patrols ran on schedule. Everything appeared normal. But he knew better now. Somewhere out there, humans were coming. And they had been planning this for longer than 21 days. Report, he ordered the sensor officer. Nothing unusual, Warden. No ships within 3 light years except our own patrols. Krelix nodded but felt no relief. The humans had demonstrated patience so far. What was 36 more days when they had already invested so much? Dr. Nari entered the command center. She looked as tired as Krelix felt. I have been reviewing everything we know about the Dandelion's mission, she said. I think I understand the timeline now. Explain. The Dandelion left human space 6 months ago. It was officially a research mission, studying exotic particles near the border. But I believe that was a cover story. For what? For testing the quantum beacon technology. And for getting Captain Taeyang into position to be captured. Krelix frowned. That requires them to predict where we would patrol, where we would intercept them. Not predict, Nari corrected. Control. What if they deliberately entered our patrol routes? What if they wanted to be intercepted, but had to make it look accidental? Then the crew deaths, Krelix said slowly. When they scuttled the ship. That was not desperation. That was part of the plan. Nari nodded grimly. 23 crew members died to make Taeyang's capture look legitimate. To make us believe he was just a lucky survivor. To make us bring him here, to the exact place they wanted him. Krelix felt sick. What kind of species sacrificed their own people so casually? That is insane. No military operation is worth 23 lives. Not to capture one station. No, Nari agreed. But what if this is not about the station? What if it is about the war itself? Warden, Terminus 7 holds more than just prisoners. It holds Velkari military commanders, engineers, strategic planners. Some of the Empire's best minds are stationed here, running this facility. You think they want to kill our officers? I think they want to cut off the head, Nari said. In one strike, destroy our leadership in this sector. That would cripple our war effort for months, maybe years. Krelix considered this. It was bold, desperate, the kind of strategy a losing side might attempt. And the humans were losing. Their colonies were falling one by one. In another year, maybe less, the war would be over. Unless they change the game entirely. I will not give them the chance, Krelix decided. Double all patrols. Activate the defense grid to maximum power. Bring in reinforcements from the nearest base. That will take weeks, Nari pointed out. Then we have time. But even as he gave the orders, Krelix wondered if he was doing exactly what the humans wanted. They had counted on his pride, on his refusal to retreat. What else had they counted on? He returned to Taeyang's cell. The human was sitting on his bench, eyes closed. Tell me the truth, Krelix demanded. All of it. How many ships are coming? Taeyang opened his eyes. I do not know. You are lying. I am not. Taeyang said calmly. I am a research officer. Remember? They did not tell me operational details. I only know my part of the mission. Which is what? To die here when we destroy your fleet? To be here, Taeyang said. To prove that it can be done. To prove that one human can survive long enough in Velkari captivity for a rescue to be possible. There will be no rescue. We will see, Taeyang said, and smiled. That smile. Always that smile. Krelix wanted to smash it from the human's face, but he restrained himself. Violence would serve no purpose now. Do you understand what you have done? Krelix asked. You have sentenced yourself to death. Even if your fleet somehow reaches this station, you will die in the battle. We will execute all prisoners, rather than let them be freed. I know, Taeyang said quietly. I accepted that possibility when I volunteered. Why? For what purpose? You are one man. Your life means nothing in the scope of this war. My life means everything, Taeyang said. Not because I am special, but because of what I represent. I represent the promise that humanity does not abandon its own. Every soldier, every pilot, every person fighting this war knows that if they are captured, their people will try to bring them home. That promise is worth more than any weapon. That is foolish sentiment, Krelix said. Sentiment does not win wars. No, Taeyang agreed. But it is why we fight them. Over the next 10 days, tension on Terminus 7 increased. The fleet remained on high alert. Patrols found nothing. The sensor grid detected no unusual activity. But everyone could feel it. Something was coming. Krelix ordered the interrogation of every human prisoner on the station, 12 others besides Taeyang. None of them knew anything about an attack. Most had been captured months or years ago, long before the Dandelion's mission. But Krelix had them questioned anyway. Searching for any hint of the plan, he found nothing. On day 35, Krelix stood in the command center and stared at the countdown he had marked on his private display. 22 days since Taeyang had said 36. 1 day left. Report, he ordered. All patrols report clear, Warden. Sensor grid? Nothing unusual. Background radiation normal. No sign of ships approaching. Krelix wanted to feel relief. Perhaps the humans had changed their plans. Perhaps they had realized the impossibility of attacking Terminus 7. Perhaps Taeyang had been wrong about the timeline, but he did not believe it. The human had been too certain. Maintain full alert, he ordered. No one relaxes until this day is over. The hours crawled past. Krelix barely left the command center. He watched the displays, waiting for something, anything, to appear. At what would have been midnight on most planets, the sensors erupted with warnings. Multiple contacts, the sensor officer shouted. Emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the system. How many? Krelix demanded. Counting now. 50, 70, 100. Warden, they are still coming. The display showed it clearly. Ship after ship appearing in real space, spreading out in attack formation. Not a raid, not a rescue mission. A full battle fleet. Battle stations, Krelix ordered. Launch all fighters. Activate all defense platforms. Get me a count. 200 ships now, the sensor officer reported. 250. They are moving fast, Warden. Assault formation. Time to weapons range, 43 minutes. Krelix felt something he had never felt in 60 years of military service. Real fear. Not for himself, but for the realization that the humans had actually done it. They had brought a fleet large enough to threaten Terminus 7. Alert all ships, he ordered. Prepare to repel attack, and send a message to command. We need reinforcements. Warden, the communications officer said. They are jamming all frequencies. We cannot transmit beyond the local area. Of course they were. The humans had planned this perfectly. Krelix ran to Taeyong's cell. The human was standing, face pressed to the small window that showed a sliver of space. Even from here, the flash of ships dropping from hyperspace was visible. You lied, Krelix said. You said 36 days. It has been 35. No, Taeyong said softly. I said in 36 more days you would understand. I have been here 57 days. Warden, today is day 57. They are right on time. Krelix grabbed the human by the shoulder and spun him around. This is suicide. My fleet will destroy them. Perhaps, Taeyong said. But they only need to do one thing, Warden. Just one. What? Prove that rescue is possible, Taeyong said. Every Valkyrie victory in this war has come from the belief that your empire is invincible. That resistance is futile. That we should surrender and accept your rule. But if we can take Terminus 7, even for an hour, even for a minute, that belief dies. And the war changes forever. An explosion rocked the station. The battle had begun. Krelix released Taeyong and ran back to the command center. The displays showed chaos. The human fleet had split into multiple groups. One engaged the Valkyrie capital ships directly. Another targeted the defense platforms. A third, smaller group drove straight toward the station itself. They are trying to reach the station, the tactical officer reported. All ships, defensive formation, Krelix ordered. Do not let them through. But even as he gave orders, he realized the truth. The humans were not trying to win. They were trying to reach Taeyong. Everything else was just clearing a path. The Battle of Terminus 7 lasted 6 hours and 17 minutes. Krelix watched it all from the command center, feeling his perfect record, his decades of service, his pride in the Valkyrie Empire crumble with every passing minute. The human fleet fought with a desperation he had never seen before. They did not fight to win. They fought to survive long enough to complete their mission. Kamikaze drones threw themselves at Valkyrie shields, exhausting them. Relativistic missiles, moving at nearly light speed, punched through hulls before point defense could react. Small fighter craft swarmed the capital ships, like insects, too many to target individually. But the Valkyrie fleet was powerful. Ship by ship, the humans were being destroyed. The beautiful capital ship that led them, a carrier called Wildfire, lost its port side to a direct hit. 2 of the cruisers supporting it exploded in balls of fire. The fighter wings were being cut down by Valkyrie point defense. We are winning, the tactical officer reported. But his voice carried no confidence, because the third group of human ships, the smallest one, had reached the station. They are docking, the security officer shouted. Multiple breaches on levels 7, 12, and 19. Alarms blared throughout the station. Krelix could hear weapons fire echoing through the metal walls. The humans had boarded Terminus 7. Send all security teams to repel boarders, Krelix ordered. Seal all prison levels. Execute Protocol 7. Protocol 7. The standing order, for if the station was ever breached, kill all prisoners immediately. Leave nothing for the enemy to rescue. Krelix ran toward the prison levels. He had to see this through personally. Had to ensure that even if the humans reached the cells, they would find only corpses. But when he reached level 7, he found chaos. Dr. Nari stood in the corridor, a weapon in her hand. She had shot the 2 guards posted outside Taeyong's cell. Their bodies lay on the floor, still bleeding. "What are you doing?" Krelix demanded. Nari turned to face him. Tears ran down her face, but her hand was steady. "What I should have done 3 years ago. What I should have done, instead of betraying my people. You would die for this?" "I would die to stop being a traitor," Nari said. She opened Taeyong's cell door with the guard's key. The human captain stood inside, watching. "Dr. Nari," Taeyong said quietly, "you do not have to do this." "Yes, I do," she said. "Come on. We need to reach the evacuation point." Taeyong stepped out of the cell. He looked at Krelix. "You could come with us, Warden. This war does not have to continue. We could talk. Make peace." "I am Velkari," Krelix said. "I do not surrender." "I did not ask you to surrender," Taeyong said. "I asked you to talk." Before Krelix could respond, an explosion rocked the corridor. Part of the ceiling collapsed. Through the smoke and debris, human soldiers appeared. They wore combat armor marked with Earth's flag. Their weapons swept the area, professional and efficient. "Captain Taeyang," one of them shouted. "We are here to bring you home." The soldier was young, barely out of his teens. His name patch read, Jiwan. He moved to Taeyong's side, checking him for injuries. "Are you hurt, sir?" Jiwan asked. "I will survive," Taeyong said. "But there are other prisoners. Humans on levels 9 and 14. Already extracted, sir," Jiwan reported. "We got all of them." All of them. Krelix felt the words like a physical blow. In 6 hours, the humans had done what no force had done in 50 years. They had breached Terminus 7 and freed prisoners. "We need to go," Jiwan said urgently. "The fleet cannot hold much longer." "Wait," Taeyong said. He looked at Krelix. "Come with us, please, before more people die." Krelix wanted to refuse. Wanted to fight. But looking at the young soldier, at Nari's determined face, at Taeyong's exhausted but hopeful expression, he found he could not. "Why?" he asked. "Why offer mercy to an enemy?" "Because we remember what it means to be prisoners," Taeyong said. In the command center, the battle continued. The human fleet was being destroyed. Of the 200 ships that had arrived, fewer than 80 remained. The wildfire was crippled, venting atmosphere, but small escape pods were launching from the station. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Every human prisoner was getting away. The tactical officer looked at the displays in disbelief. "They are sacrificing their entire fleet for a few prisoners." "Not a few," Krelix said quietly, having returned to the command center. He had let Taeyong go, had watched him board an escape pod with Nari and the young soldier, had done nothing to stop them. All of them. They came. For all of them. "That is insane," the tactical officer said. "No." Krelix said. "That is human." "No." Krelix said. "No." The last escape pod cleared the station's debris field. The remaining human ships began to retreat, covering the pods as they moved toward hyperspace jump points. The Velkari fleet pursued, destroying more ships with every minute. But the pods kept going, kept running, and one by one, they jumped to hyperspace and vanished. In the end, only 17 human ships escaped. 183 had been destroyed. Thousands of humans had died, but every single prisoner had been freed. Krelix stood in the ruins of his command center and finally understood. The smile, the counting, the certainty. Taeyong had known from the beginning that his people would come, had endured torture not because he was strong, but because he trusted, because he had faith that humanity would not abandon him, and that faith had been rewarded. A week later, reports came from across the sector. Human forces had launched similar rescue operations at 3 other Velkari prisons. Smaller facilities, less defended than Terminus 7, but the pattern was the same. Massive assaults, Heavy losses. Complete success. The message was clear. Humanity would pay any price to bring their people home. 2 weeks after the battle, a communication arrived from the human government. An offer of prisoner exchange. Talks. Maybe even peace negotiations. The Velkari High Command was divided. Some wanted to press the war harder, to punish the humans for their audacity. Others recognized that an enemy willing to sacrifice so much for their own people would fight to the last person rather than surrender. Krelix was asked to provide his assessment. As the warden who had held Taeyang, who had witnessed the rescue, his opinion carried weight. He thought for a long time before responding. He remembered the smile, the calm certainty, the willingness to endure pain because of trust in others. "We cannot defeat them," he wrote in his report, "not through force, not through fear, because they do not fight for territory or resources, or even survival. They fight for each other. And as long as they believe in that, as long as they trust each other, they will never truly be defeated." He recommended peace talks. The High Command agreed. 6 months later, the war ended. Not with victory or defeat, but with negotiation. Borders were established. Prisoners exchanged. The Velkari Empire, for the first time in 3,000 years, signed a treaty recognizing another power as an equal. Taeyang, now Admiral Taeyang, was present at the signing. He had been promoted for his actions, put in charge of humanity's Deep Space Reconnaissance Division. When Krelix saw him across the diplomatic table, the human nodded respectfully. After the ceremony, they spoke privately. "I am sorry," Krelix said, "for the torture, for the pain, for everything." "I know," Taeyang said, "but you were doing your duty, as you understood it. I was wrong. You were incomplete," Taeyang corrected gently. "You understood power and strength and conquest. But you did not understand something else. Something humans have known for a long time." "What is that?" "That the strongest thing in the universe is not weapons or ships or empires," Taeyang said. "It is the promise we make to each other. The promise that we will never leave someone behind. That we will always try to bring each other home. That promise is what makes us human, and it is what you saw when I smiled." Krelix was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I understand now. Why you smiled during interrogation. Do you? Because you were never alone," Krelix said. "Even in the worst pain, even in the darkest cell, you knew your people were coming. You knew you were not forgotten. That knowledge gave you strength I could never break." Taeyang smiled. That same warm, genuine smile from the interrogation room. "Now you understand, Warden. Now you finally understand." Years later, when Krelix retired from military service, he wrote a memoir. But the chapter he spent the most time on was about Taeyang. He wrote about the smile, about the counting, about the moment he realized that some things matter more than victory. The final words of his memoir were simple. "I learned that day that humanity's greatest strength is not their technology or their tactics or their courage. It is their refusal to abandon each other. They will walk into hell itself, endure any pain, sacrifice anything, if it means bringing their people home. And as long as they remember that, as long as they keep that promise to each other, they will survive anything the galaxy throws at them." I learned this from a prisoner who smiled during torture. On Earth, in a small ceremony, Captain Taeyang received the highest honor his government could give. But when asked to speak, he did not talk about his own courage or sacrifice. Instead, he talked about the 23 crew members who died scuttling the Dandelion, about the pilots who gave their lives covering the escape pods, about Dr. Nari, who had found her courage again. "They are the heroes," he said. "I just kept a promise. The promise that we all make to each other. That no one gets left behind. Not while we still live. Not while we still smile." And in the audience, former soldiers who had been rescued from Terminus 7 smiled with him, remembering the day they learned that humanity keeps its promises, no matter the cost.